Good morning. What a week. What a week we had. What a great week. All of you guys are out there making stuff happen. We see the needle move. Every Tuesday, the team gets together, our leadership team, we monitor, we match, we look at what the key performance indicators are in the business. And it's been really amazing because on Monday, we look at what the market's doing. And then on Tuesday, we look at what we're doing. And across the board as a team, you guys are bucking the trends, you're moving the needle, having an impact, which is super, super important, obviously, particularly because it's got to happen for your family. So, um, I am, as I mentioned on Monday, I thought this would be kind of a pretty good segue for an introduction for our amazing guest, Ashley, who's here. Ashley will wave. Yeah. So on Sunday, I'm heading out of town. I'll be gone for 2 weeks, as you guys know. Going to go take a vacation. But I don't know that I have ever needed a mental health break like I do now. Crispy, that's the best way to describe it. Just burnt, just crispy, just hammering on all cylinders since, like maybe even last October. Every day waking up like a ninja, just battling the daily stuff, right? And how many of you guys can relate? I know you can. Put your hands up. Yeah. So Ashley is a mental health professional who is joining us today. And Ashley, I really can't thank you enough for taking the time to join us. Um, I know that you know a couple of people on the team, and I, this industry's, we're wildly crazy human beings. Like we all got issues, and we can say that kind of stuff without it offending anybody, right? Everybody here, yeah, we got issues, right? So anybody that decides to embark upon in this career is signing up for a fast track to personal development and growth. And so every Friday, we ask the team, we bring leaders from all walks of life to the organization to share their journey path toward living an action-packed, fulfilling life, one that's kind of covers the whole gamut. And your name was recommended, and we think you'd be a great guest. So very excited to have you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So let's I know you have a business, and one of the things that we want to talk about your business, but more interesting to me is the passion behind the person, because real estate's an industry full of entrepreneurially minded people, right? So there's this marriage of like a service heart and ambition and entrepreneurship. Like people don't get into real estate because they're looking for stability and security. That's not high on the list. They don't say like, boy, I really like a nice 9 to 5 job with a regular paycheck. They go, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll work 80, 100 hours a week, maybe never get paid, but that sounds like I'm in. I'll do that instead. So you can imagine that the amount of stress, anxiety, the amount of uncertainty that shows up that the people that you're looking at here today have to combat on a daily basis for the most part. We talk about waking up unemployed every single day, and unemployment is one of the highest stressors known, right? Like it's like divorce, disease, unemployment, like so, and people here sign up for that. So um, tell us about your journey, Ashley. How did you get started in the world of, serving yourself, serving others? How'd you
Yeah.
get where you are? What started for you?
Yeah. So one thing that came up for me when you were just speaking, one of the other most stressful life events is moving, actually. So
Sure.
I was just talking to a client about this yesterday. She was being discharged. She's moving out of state, so I'm no longer able to see her. And we are talking about that. And so it's interesting because you all are also working with people in potentially one of their most stressful like life events, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm sure you take on that energy.
No question.
And just like as a therapist, right? Like I sat with 7 clients back to back yesterday, and I'm a container of safety and space, right? And we take on that energy, and so it's so important to take care of ourselves. I'm so happy you're getting away for a vacation. Hopefully, you're able to unplug. I'm sure you're going to be checking in because you're a business owner and that's just the
Nope,
way that.
not doing it. See you later. Guys, I'll see you in 2 weeks. Do not call. This is the first time ever. Don't call, don't ask, whatever. If I come back and the whole thing's burned down, whatever, we'll start it over. No,
Good.
just,
And
just
you're able to do that because you have a team, right? Like you have a trusted team behind you. So good for you. But my name is Ashley Chambrello. I'm the owner of the Growth Chapter, which is a mental health practice group in Rocky Hill, Connecticut. We serve clients in Connecticut, either virtually or in Rocky Hill. So the way my journey started was when I was young. I was never someone who didn't know what they wanted to do, which is kind of nice. When I was probably about 12 or 13, my mom's friend and neighbor was in grad school being a social worker. She left a textbook at the house. I love to read. And so I picked it up and I was just fascinated. I was fascinated with the brain, with, the stuff that I was able to comprehend at that point in a college textbook. And so I knew I wanted to do something in that field. Fast forward to when I was like 14, 15. I had a great therapist. She helped me through, some life events and just being a teenager. And I remember just wanting to be her. I
mm,
wanted to be in private practice, a therapist, being able to sit with people and help them through their challenges. That's kind of like the golden, like that's like the top in mental health, right? A lot of people start with like agency work, kind of like the hard in home, all of that stuff. So I went to college, took a year off, went to Colorado, came back, went to grad school, and I right after grad school opened up a private practice. So I had a couple internships. The internships that I had to create both of those.
mm.
So I think just from the very beginning, it was just that entrepreneurial mindset of I'm going to create, and I'm going to get, right?
What
No
I
matter
think
what.
you just said something really, really cool, which is a conversation that I've been having a lot lately. The thing that made you different there, and you explained it. You said most people don't. You described the golden level, right? Like this is what everybody wants to get to. You didn't do all the steps in between. You just went for that. Your
Mhm.
clarity of what you wanted is actually what created the opportunity for you to become the person that you needed to be in order to get to the thing that you ultimately wanted to do. And so now
Mhm.
you have this thriving, successful practice, and you're living out the experience that you thought you wanted. And here's the sideline question. Is it anything like you thought it would be?
Yes. Um, yes and no. So yes, I it's really not much different, right? When I was 15 in my therapist chair, watching her do her thing, yeah, I mean that's what I do, right? I think I've made it a little bit different in that I really love working with couples, and so I didn't see that before. And I didn't know the back end stuff, right? So I knew I wanted to be a therapist, but being a therapist and a business owner are two very different hats.
Yeah.
Being a therapist, right? I'm soft. Well, not really, but I'm empathetic. I am attuned to the client. The client is kind of my number one priority. And while I'm a business owner, my client still has to be there, but it's a business, right? And so I have to make tough decisions sometimes as a business owner. And so it's two very different hats. Yesterday, when I was more in the therapist role, after 7 sessions and 2 supervisions with my clinicians, I was just so tapped. And I was telling a friend, like, it's just different when I'm wearing the business owner hat for 9 hours versus the therapist hat. And but
Totally.
my ADHD brain loves the like dynamic. I
The
need both.
stimulation. Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
What's been the biggest surprise for you in stepping into the entrepreneurship business owner role?
I think how natural it comes to me. I think I've always been, right, like as a teenager, I was tough. I didn't like being told no. I always wanted to pave my way. I'm sure what makes me successful now drove my parents absolutely crazy growing up.
Well, you sound
And
like you've always been a little bit mission and purpose driven. So
yes.
if you had clarity about what you wanted, it sound like so that business owner mindset for you around like, well, this is what we're going to do and we're going to do it. Sounds like
Mhm.
that came naturally to you.
Yeah. And I think that, as a business owner, you have to bet on yourself
Mhm.
all the time, right? And that can be absolutely terrifying. I
Yeah.
work with so many clients that they want to bet on anything else because if shit hits the fan and it doesn't go well, at least they can blame someone else. Blaming ourselves for like losses or failures, that's a hard pill to swallow, and you have to have that tough skin, and you really have to kind of believe in yourself and your confidence and what you're creating. I believe in my business, my industry, and my business so much. I've worked for other groups that didn't align. It just, there were things in there that I just didn't value or believe in. And after that last experience, I knew I need something on my own that I just truly believe in and can create.
All right, so let's jump right into the deep end.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
just let's just
My favorite.
cut the outside six layers of the onion off and just go right to the core here. What if you don't know? What if you don't have what you just described? What if you don't have belief in yourself, clarity that what you're doing makes sense, a reason to wake up every day? What if your every day is filled with doubt and question and you're overcome all the time with wondering if you're going to make it? How do you navigate that? How does
I
one
think,
wake up every day and find purpose when they feel adrift?
yeah. I think there's a few different things. I think one, it's really important to acknowledge and remember the success and progress and the positives. So our brains as human beings just aren't wired to do that. Our brains as human beings are wired to look for the negative. We pay attention to the negatives more. They When we were cavemen, we didn't need to know where the pretty flowers were, like where, right? Like we needed to know where the bear cave was, where the danger was. And so we are just naturally wired to pay attention to the things that go wrong, to the things that we're not good at. And so we really need to practice intentionally on paying attention to the positives. It is not easy, but it's a muscle, right? Our brain's a muscle, and so we need to strengthen it. And so I think, when things get rough, it's nice to kind of have like a celebration list. It's nice to be able to look at the things that you have accomplished, that you were good at, that you did help someone, because it's so easy for our brains to forget that. I think too, having strong mentors, right? And like cheerleaders, but people that you can learn from, that support you, that can motivate you. I think I'm nobody without my people, right? I am very lucky to have had two incredible supervisors through my like practicum and internship experience, my first internship in private practice. That's what gave me, right, the information, the knowledge, the confidence in doing this and in starting this. So I think leaning on the people that are really supportive is absolutely just crucial. And then lastly, I would say doing that deeper therapeutic work, right? Like, I don't think a lot of us have this self doubt or lack of confidence or um, I don't know, inability to see the success in ourselves without some shit that has happened in the past, right? Like something, somebody gave us an implicit or explicit message that we weren't good enough, we were going to fail, we were going to X, Y, and Z. And I think as we're growing up, that stuff gets wired into our brain. And sometimes it doesn't get processed out. And that's what trauma is unresolved, experiences or emotions that are stuck. And so I think, getting a good therapist that can dig deeper. I'm a brain spotting therapist. That's my jam. That is a deeper somatic based therapeutic model to like really clear that shit out. I've worked with a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs with brain spotting, and I could talk a little bit about brain spotting and how it works. But I've worked with a lot that felt like, I'm ready to level up. I just I'm having this difficulty, right? Like I am waking up in the morning and I don't believe in myself in this way, or I can't seem to get out of my own way. And we do brain spotting and we process out whatever's been holding them back, right? A belief, an experience. And once we start doing that deeper work and we start processing and getting rid of the stuff that's holding them down, they flourish. There's so much more clarity and calmness and confidence.
You just said so many amazing
So
things.
many.
I'm
Sorry.
gonna, I'm gonna, no, it's wonderful. I'm gonna recap. So we all should be sitting here remembering that your mind, your brain is a terrorist bent
Mhm.
on hijacking how you feel. Set out to take over the airplane of your life experience and try to fly the plane towards safety. And that if you are the pilot of your life trying to strive for hard things, there's always a terrorist in the plane trying to get into the cockpit to say, land the plane, slow the plane down. It's too high, it's too fast, it's too hard. The engines are going to fail. There's always a terrorist in the plane trying to scare you, the pilot, to take the plane down, to land because it's safe on land. It's risky in the air. And you're saying fill your plane with mentors and get some passengers on that plane who can help you overcome or hold the terrorists back and remind you that you're the pilot and you're the one that's really got it going on. Practice, so maybe get in a flight simulator once in a while and do some of the work around what it means to actually have that plane at the altitude that you want it to be at. Get around people who've done it before. Practice the work. And ultimately, what you're saying is that the entire journey is an inward one. That you are, if you have a problem that you experience, it's your problem, whatever that is. You feel unworthy, or you think that you're worried about how you're being judged or other people. That the real solution is not going to be outward; it's going to be inward, and that
Yeah.
you do the deep work and you go inside, you'll find the solutions there.
Yeah.
Specifically by making sure that you're staying in a positive, gratitude-based, joyful, like recognizing your successes, recognizing that you're not where you started from, and that you've had this like really, really, you've already come so far.
Mhm.
Okay, I love it. I'm so on board. And what about the people that are like, that's all hokey pokey, airy fairy? I don't believe in wizards and goblins. Like, I don't know what kind of magic spells you're talking about here, Gandalf. Like, what are we doing? Like, what about the folks that have not experienced it before? Like people that are, and I don't think, to be candid, I don't think you've got a lot of them on this team. I think we're a pretty high-minded, open thinking group. But I know the people out there. I've met them. I'm in a couple of different entrepreneur groups, and a few that tend to skew more predominantly male, masculine,
Mhm.
and there's a resistance, a white knuckle my way through it, and I'll take care of it mindset. How do we get through to those people to help them understand that this work is just as much work as bench pressing, 275 pounds?
Mhm. Um, Yeah, I mean, I think that especially like with the brain spotting and the deeper therapy, and okay, so in order to solve this problem, I have to go back and heal this wound, right? Oh yeah, those are like my
By the
favorite
way, good
clients.
good sarcasm, right? It was really good. I know you've had that customer before because I know it. Yeah. Oh
All
yeah,
all
right.
the time.
Because my mom didn't pack me lunch. I don't want to be a successful. Right. Exactly. So what
Uh-huh.
about the but there's a real audience of people who don't understand the power of sort of revisiting the you called it trauma, the scars, the events, the moments that have defined the software that runs our brain. So how do we get through those people? How do we help them understand that this experience of doing a deep dive, therapy, intentional work on who you are is actually a path to rapid personal growth and acceleration?
Yeah. I think that I so you mentioned too that a lot of entrepreneurs and like in your kind of like groups, right, are men. And I work a lot with men. And I one of my favorite populations to work with. And I think that men are logical, right? Like that's just the part of the brain that they hone in on, and women are more emotional based. Yes, Corey, it is. I trust me, I see this a lot. That is not to say that there aren't logical women, right? Yes, very
Or
much so. Or
or
more
emotional
emotional men.
or
Yeah,
emotional men, right?
exactly. And like I see it a lot when I work with couples, right? It's typically the like pretty stereotypical way, but not always. And I think that the rational logical brain is kind of hard to like break through, right? Like they've got to subscribe to the deeper like emotional brain and what's in there. I think that so again, specifically to what I do with the brain spotting is it's interesting because clients that are resistant, I just ask them to try it. Just see what happens, right? And I've had so many clients come in just like this isn't going to work like because they just tap into how they feel, and we can do like a little quick thing to see what you guys notice like as a group. Um and but you tap into a feeling where you feel it in your body, you find where in your visual field that information is, and then we stay on there and we see what comes up, right? And it is so woo woo, and I always say like I know that this is very woo woo, and a lot of times clients, afterwards they'll be like, oh my god, you're a goddamn wizard. Like how did you do that, right? Or after sessions, and they come in for a handful of sessions, they're like, I can't even tell you why my life is different or why this is easier, but it just is. And I think that, for the clients that are super resistant, it's, why don't we just kind of try it, right? Like, what do you have got to lose? If you can figure it out, why haven't you already, right? It's not
Mhm.
a weakness. We all have emotions. That's what literally makes us humans. And, I think the therapeutic relationship is so important that a lot of clients that come in that are that like this isn't going to work, or emotions don't serve a purpose and I can do it on my own, this is their space to like be vulnerable. They're not out there in the world doing that, right?
Right.
And I think that there's so much research out there too that I can pull up or I can invite them to just show how powerful the brain and the body truly, but the mind is. And one thing that I do with clients, I wonder if I have it. No, usually I have it like everywhere, but is like a thought triangle, right? Very basic cognitive behavioral therapy. And this works well with people who are like engineer like brains or, very white and black. Is I draw a triangle. I guess I could do it. And basically, it's really as simple as like you don't like your feelings or your emotions or like what's going on in your life, right? You don't like how you wake up in the morning, you're not motivated. You think that, you're going to suck today. Nothing's going to go right. The quickest way to kind of I don't know, to resolve it, but the quickest fix, I guess, if you will, is to focus on your thoughts, right? And so I don't know if you guys can see this or not, but it's
Yep.
just a little
Got it.
triangle that I do. It
Thoughts.
has,
I got thoughts on the
yep,
top, behavior on the left, and I can't see the right.
feelings,
What's a feeling?
feelings on the right. Yeah.
Got
And
it.
so I tell people, right? If the emotions are the hard part to change, right? We can't just tap in and say, I'm sad. Nope, I want to be happy, right? Like if we could do that, we would, but we can't. Um, and so the easiest way, not simple, but the kind of most direct way to change how you feel and what you're doing is to focus on your thoughts and to reframe them, right? And so instead of waking up and saying, today's going to suck, this meeting's going to be terrible, my boss is going to hate me, this isn't going to go well, like really paying attention to your thoughts and seeing if you can reframe them in a more positive way, but it has to be believable, right? Like if I have a client that is really struggling with like a work deadline and I'm not going to make it, I always screw up, I'm never on time, well, what do you think is going to happen, right? Like, how are you going to be feeling? If you're thinking those things, how are you feeling? I'm going to feel stressed. I'm going to feel hopeless. And then what are you going to be doing? I'm either going to be avoiding it or I'm going to be pacing. I'm not going to be paying attention to other stuff. Okay. So, what if we change the thoughts that, you know what, if the meeting doesn't go well, I know I'll be okay. I have done these before. I can prepare as much as I can. How are you going to be feeling? Maybe calmer, a little bit more confident, right? It's not going to change the world, but it's going to make a
It's
difference
funny. I love this concept because like what I love to bring to I like play the game. Maybe this is my logic brain rationalizing my emotions. I like to play the game. What's the worst that can happen?
all the time.
That's
Mm-hmm.
my favorite game to play.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And what I've learned is it's never as bad as it feels. I can actually like what I say, like what's the worst that could happen? Like, and I'll give you an extreme example. My wife will leave me, take the kids, and I'll be
Mm-hmm.
left homeless and with nothing. And I'm like, well, at least I could hike the Appalachian Trail, like, and
Yeah.
nobody'd be calling and bothering me. Like there's like what's the worst that can happen? It's never as
Yeah.
bad as what I'm feeling in the moment as I think about the thing that's terrible. It's like, well,
Mm-hmm.
there'll be some other opportunity inside of it. And I've trained myself my whole life to play that game. So I love this concept of sort of building in your worst case scenario and then confronting that as if it's like now some people maybe that would send them into a terror trauma. I don't know. Like maybe they would be actually terrified of it. But for me, it helps me rationalize that like most likely because like, oh, I have a listing appointment and it's really important. What's the worst that can happen? Well, they won't hire me.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
so how bad will it be if they don't hire me?
Yeah.
I'll be exactly where I am right now before I've met with them
Yes.
and they haven't hired me. So it'll
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
actually no different than today.
And I have another thing that I also like present to clients to kind of challenge their belief, right? And their like negative thinking or something. But what you just said too with the worst case scenario, I ask clients that all the time. What's worst case scenario? And they tell me. And I follow up with, could you handle that? Like, would you be okay? Are you going to survive that? Right? Almost every time it's, well, yeah. And I'm like, okay, so what are you so worried about then? Right? Like, yes, we don't want worst case, but if you could survive absolute worst case, I'd say you're pretty okay, right? And that worst case scenario, when our brains jump to that without even like, right, asking ourselves, that's the hijacker in the plane. That's its partner, right? There's one hijacker that's like always looking for the negative, right? And then there's one that is like the more anxious one is, well, this is going to happen. This worst case scenario could happen, right? And we just have to combat that. And worst case scenario, if you go back to thinking about worst case scenarios that you've ever thought of, how many of those actually happened? Like it doesn't, right? Most of the time it doesn't happen. Our brains will come up with like scenario A, B, and C, and we feel like we're prepared for that. And then E happens. We didn't even think about it, and we show up, right?
I love it.
So,
So what I'm now imagining is this airplane that's basically the equivalent of the Inside Out movie, and all of our emotions
yes,
are flying on the plane, right? And
yes.
those for the team, those of you that haven't seen Inside Out, the Pixar movie, You've got to see
Have
it.
to.
It's a
Hmm.
brilliant movie, broken down into the simplest concept of, how your mind and emotions work. I
Hmm.
want to shift gears really quickly, Ashley, because I'm a
Hmm.
big fan, really fundamentally changed my life, of Michael Singer, who wrote a book called The Untethered Soul. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but the concept that he sort of posits, and he's much more of a his world is more spiritual versus psychology. But the concept that he deposits is that there is a you, there's a person that is you, and then there is your brain, and that we are perpetually in the process of trying to think. We think that our brain, that our mind, that the messages in our brain are actually us, when in fact, how can you hear yourself? It's not you, because there has to be an observer that is witnessing the experience, and that the observer is actually you, that that's your soul, that the person that is you, the true essence of you, is the one that's listening to the anxious mind, that's hearing the worry, that's hearing the things that are uncomfortable. And so the entire effort of an untethered soul, of a life that is not bothered, is detachment, an actual detachment from the experience, but being more of the observer of it versus the participant. So that when the brain says, we can't handle this altitude, we're too high, this is going to be too hard, everything's going to go wrong, you're messing everything up, that there's this observer that goes, well, that's really interesting that you think that, tell me more, like almost your own inner psychological analyst living
Hmm.
inside your brain, navigating and negotiating with your own brain. I'd love to hear your thoughts
Hmm.
on that. Number one, are you familiar with Michael Singer at all?
So I love to read. Um, I have tried The Untethered Soul, and it was one of the books that for some reason I just
You
couldn't
couldn't
get
link
through.
it. I
I
would
wanted to
suggest
so bad.
I would suggest I had the same experience, and then I read the other book that he wrote, which is The Surrender Experiment,
Mm.
and that is more of like the autobiographical version,
Mm.
which I found far more compelling and interesting. And then I was able to get back to The Untethered Soul.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
um,
I'll
so I
try it
would
again.
recommend that. So,
Yeah.
so then tell me from your professional experience what your view is on that concept.
I think that that is how we all live, right? And I think that when you brought up Inside Out, I can't tell you how often I reference that movie in sessions. Um, and, with the untethered soul and the idea that we are all us, right? With these different kind of parts. That is how we live. And I think that when I have clients that come in and let's say, they're feeling anxious, right? Even just the language that we use of I'm anxious, that is now us as a whole.
Mm,
Anxiety is me, right? I'm anxious.
mm,
When you can kind of phrase that as I'm feeling anxious, I'm noticing an anxious part, right? That language just separates it out, that that part is that's externalized, that is separate, that this is just a part, and it's not as overwhelming, right? Like I'm sad is me as a whole, my total being. I'm feeling sad, that's just a part of me now, and that is more manageable to work through than my whole identity, right? And
just
so the
so
language that we say.
it's so fascinating because fundamentally, I believe that the difference, and having we've been doing these calls, Ashley, for the better part of 5 or 6 years, maybe even longer, 7 years maybe. And so we've had leaders, authors, entrepreneurs that have achieved massive levels of success. We've had people from all walks of life come here, and the thing that I'm always wrestling or trying to reestablish, or trying to, the messaging that I see as consistent is identity. And what you're saying is that what often happens as we're getting hijacked is we're allowing our identity to be taken over. That we
Yeah.
allow the person that we truly are to become the thing we're feeling, right? So,
Yeah.
and by the way, that feels dangerous on both ways because I'm happy and then suddenly you're not happy. And so, what's wrong
Yeah.
with me? I'm no longer the person that I thought I was, which was happy or content or whatever. And then I'm sad. So now you're a different you're always in a wrestling match with who you are. So I love this concept of just changing language around it. So what are
Mhm.
some things that people can do?
So I think that again, a little woo-woo, I guess. But I often
We knew what
invite
we were getting into here. Let's just say that we weren't expecting. Yeah, we knew we were getting into something woo woo. So
Yeah. Um, I honestly, the number one thing that I invite clients to do is to talk to those parts of themselves, right? And so the way that I encourage them to do that, we start kind of in here so that they can get used to it or learn kind of like the ways to do that. I always tell them, like, don't talk to your anxious part, your sad part, your doubtful part, like as you're walking through the grocery store and you're like, hey, shut up, right? Like, no, don't do that. But like, you know, go into the bathroom or when, you're in the car or, even just like internally, if you were to have an emotion coming up for you, right? Like, I am feeling anxious about this meeting, right? I'll go back to that example. See if you can just kind of like close your eyes and envision that anxious part of you as separate from yourself, right? If you need to like go to a field or do whatever you need to do, just see what comes up. Something will probably come up. Like really tap into that anxious part and see if be curious and see if it's willing to kind of have a conversation with you, right?
Mhm.
And even if you can't visually see it, just try to feel it separate from yourself. So, okay, I have this anxious part, I'm going to take some breaths. And what does this anxious part want me to know? What is this anxious part trying to tell me? What's this anxious part's job in its life right now, in my life right now? When we're able to just kind of separate out from the part of us that is coming up, we're able to learn about it. We're able to kind of ask it questions. And I'm always, I guess, not surprised, but impressed by how quickly people are able to like identify these parts and to almost speak from them, right?
Mhm.
And they're like, well, I don't know if I'm saying this or if the part's saying this. Just go with it.
Yeah.
That is that intuition of like, well, this is just what came up for me when you asked me to ask this part that it's saying that, I'm worried I'm not going to be able to pay my mortgage. Great. That's what that part is trying to tell you, right?
Mhm.
But when we're able to separate it out and just, invite it, hey, sadness, I see you're here right now, right? Let's have a cup of tea. What do you want me to know? Right. And just
Mhm.
have this conversation with these parts of us to see more times than not, it's trying to protect you. These parts of us that we struggle with, the parts of us that we don't like sometimes, they're trying to protect us.
Mhm. They're trying to land the plane. They're saying this feels dangerous and scary, and there must be an easier way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so money is one that I think like in the nature of my relationship with the people on the team, with the people I coach, the people is often wrapped around money. That people are highly stressed or anxious about whether they're making enough or saving enough or doing enough. And so I know that that is a massive source of stress and anxiety for people. Relationships is another one that I
Mm-hmm.
feel contributes a lot to people is that they're afraid they're either in wrong relationships or they have expectations of people that they're in relationships with that are being let down and they're inside of anxiety, stress, worry about that status and purpose or like versions of themselves that they believe other people ought to see is another one that I see a lot. Like those are probably the three core ones, and then there's like history. There's like
Yeah.
something people won't let go of. Like those are the four common ones that I see. Am I missing any?
No, I think you've nailed it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just say that we've got a person who has a history that they are living in definition of, meaning that their life today is defined by a thing that happened 20 years ago. And the way you know that is that when they talk about any anxiety, stress, anything, or what the way they experience it is anytime that something comes up, it's, well, this is because of such and such. And maybe they don't verbalize it all the time, but that's a thing that you can see that there's an anchor to them. How do you help them realize that that thing no longer has power and the ability to control how they move their life forward?
Well, the thing does still have power, right?
Well, they get
And
okay, fair enough that they're giving it power because they're choosing to allow it to define them. But like, how do you help the person recognize that they can, in fact, confront that and release it? Is that am I just oversimplifying with my logic brain the thing that defines you're like, hey Matt, I spend years with people on that. Like, is that like because what I often try to, when I see these things, sometimes it's like it there's an opportunity to just let it go and
sure,
take whatever the next step is. So what's the right
yeah.
recommendation for people who are having a recurring theme like that in their life?
I mean, that's definitely therapy. That's
Okay.
definitely right. Like that's more than just like a one session kind of thing. And I think that with with that, it's so important to develop that therapeutic relationship, right? Like they have to trust this because they've been holding on to this for so long that if someone just comes in and is like, you need to get rid of it, like,
And
absolutely
they're like,
not.
no,
This
that's
is,
me. Yeah, that's my
yeah, this is what
identity.
I know.
Right.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is, I'm comfortable with this. I may not like it, but this is comfortable. People will always seek comfort, not where they grow, but we're habitual in that, right? And so I think that trying to have them understand what's the function of you holding on to this. It's serving a purpose, right? And what's
Sure.
the fear behind no longer letting this define you? Well, I don't know how. It probably is going to be a lot of uncertainty, right? For X amount of years, this has been what I've fallen back on. This has been my identity. So if I don't have that, who am I?
Mhm.
Right? And
Yeah, that becomes the
maybe,
bed. It becomes the bedrock by which you define all things moving forward.
yeah.
And without
And
that,
even if it's negative,
yeah, right. And without that, then what are we? Boy, that's way scarier than having the negative thing sometimes.
might as well just keep it there, right?
Right.
That's a lot
Yeah.
easier to just be able to fall back on that than to really have to grow. And I mean, if you don't have this crutch anymore, right? Then what? If you can blame all of the things that continue to go wrong on, well, it's because my ex had an affair 5 years ago and like I don't trust people, right?
Mhm.
Or like this
Oh yeah.
thing, then what? Now what are you going to blame stuff on? Or, you know, it's a lot of fear-based stuff, a lot of fear-based stuff. It's
Mhm.
what are you afraid would happen if you don't have this? And if we take this out, what are we replacing it with, right?
Hmm. Well, it's again, it really roots itself in this idea of the person that you are is the person that you believe you are. And that
Mm-hmm.
fundamentally, if we're all born relatively blank slate, right, with some pre-programming around our, human genetics that tell us that we should eat, sleep, and do all that stuff beyond that, then the first half of your life, you just sort of work on building an identity. And that identity
Mm-hmm.
is built around the experiences you have, which are entirely 100% different from every other single human being on the planet. So then you build an identity, and then you get to somewhere where you're like, maybe I don't love the way this feels. So I have to rebuild it, but I'm totally terrified of having to rebuild it around something that I don't know anything about.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
We have just barely scratched the surface of what is obviously an incredibly deep and very, very cool conversation. But before we turn it over to the team for some questions, I'd love to hear more
Yeah.
about, tell us about your practice. Tell us about brain spotting. Tell us like what you do, how, who you focus on. How can we help you grow your business or find the right partners for you?
Yeah. So my jam is couples work. I'm a Gottman trained therapist. And so the way that I work with couples is really like structured. Early on in my career, I would just let couples come in and it was it was chaos. It was terrible. And now it's intentional. There's kind of like a roadmap, if you will. I use a sound relationship house theory that I think you all could probably appreciate, as relationships are houses, and we need to make sure that the foundation's there, which is our friendship with one another, right? Our partners, and the trust and commitment are the walls. If those are there, if the foundation's there, then oftentimes, we can remodel the conflict and the communication and all of that stuff. Um,
I love that.
and
That's a great,
so I'm a Gottman trained. Uh-huh.
it's a great visual. I love it.
Yeah, I have a visual in my office too that I break out for clients. And then I do brain spotting. So brain spotting it's a trauma treatment modality. It doesn't have to target trauma though. It was born out of EMDR, which is another treatment modality. And it's somatic based. So basically brain spotting helps regulate the nervous system. And so when I have clients come in, especially with those physical, like, oh, I'm so tense, I'm so irritated, I'm so, right? Brain spotting can help that. And I guess the quickest way to talk about brain spotting is where you look impacts how you feel. And I like to say what information you can access. And so we tap in, we sometimes use music with the bilateral music, which activates the right and the left hemispheres of the brain. Same thing as walking. So like after my, 9 back-to-backs yesterday, I went for a 2-mile walk just to like process and regulate, and the walking is incredible. But so I do brain spotting. I'm the only one in my practice currently that does brain spotting. And a lot of couples work. I have a few clinicians that also I have a clinician that does see some couples, and she works a lot with like substance use, adults. I have clinicians that work with adolescents, young adults, availability, and I mean evening times right now, Fridays. So we have some kind of like wiggle room. We take all insurances except for Medicare and TRICARE. So those are the only 2 insurances that we don't take. Um, but yeah.
Is there, just give me sort of personal preference, and then efficacy around whether a session occurs over a Zoom or in person.
So I prefer in person. Um, and with brain spotting, in particular too, there's a lot in the therapy room of attunement of like the relationship, right? And I think that a lot happens in that room when you're 10 feet away from somebody. And I think that telehealth can work just as well. It really just depends on the person, right? I love it when I am able to meet a client at least face to face to get to know them and then transfer over to telehealth. And with that being said, I've had so many clients that I've never met in person, or I met after like 2 years in person. I'm like, oh my God, you're like tall, or, like I
Um,
didn't know this.
all right,
Um,
so let's
yeah.
say somebody's listening to this today or on the replay on the podcast, and they're hearing something that triggers them to say maybe I should try this, or maybe like what's the right expectation to set for somebody that has no experience
Oh, he
with a
froze.
therapeutic interaction? Like, did you lose me? Am I gone?
Just for a second. See,
Oh,
that's the only thing about telehealth.
right. Right.
Sometimes
Yeah. So
there's those.
what's the right thing what's the right way to explain to somebody what their expectations should be? Like,
Yeah.
in my experience, sometimes people feel like they're signing up for like a lifelong prescription. Like, I don't want to be like, what's the right thing to like, what should people expect if they've never had any interaction or any experience with therapy before? What should they know?
Yeah. I think that one, it's really important to find the right therapist, right? So there's a therapist for everybody. If someone's coming in to me in particular and they want like really soft and gentle, and like you're not getting that from me. You're gonna be challenged. I'm gonna call you out. I'm gonna try to help you grow and see things that and patterns that you may not be aware of, right? So it's so important to find the right therapist. Two is that we don't want you to be our clients forever, right? Like there are some cases with like complex PTSD and certain things that people are in it more long term, right? I still have lots of clients that come in for almost like maintenance, right? Or, just life's crazy. Like life is crazy. Life keeps lifing, right? For all of us. And but it's always nice when we're able to discharge, when you're able to meet your treatment goals. What are you coming in for? And have those symptoms like subsided? Have you been able to better manage what you were struggling with in the beginning? And I think another thing is, people often come to therapy because something is happening. I'm having a difficult time, with my divorce. I just found out that my partner cheated on me. I just lost my job, right? This is, I have this one problem that I want to get over and I need you to fix me, right? And I think that that just doesn't always happen, right? Like once we get in there and we peel back the layers of the onions and things come up, and it's your job to fix you. This is the space to process, to learn skills that you may not have learned before. But if you go into the therapy room for 1 hour a week and just, you dump it out and you do nothing with it, it's gonna take you a long time.
Yeah, okay. I love what you just said because I think it's one of the most important things to articulate, and I'll just rephrase it that therapy, I've always in my life I've been in therapy on and off for years, and but I think of it like emotional maintenance the same
Hmm.
way that I think of physical exercise or having a good
Hmm.
or trying to bring good nutrition into my life. That like there are times where it's crucial for you to maintain because you maybe and you don't always need it's not an everyday thing. You don't need this all the
Yeah.
time, but there are times when you're like, I'm off the rails. I haven't worked out in 2 years. I've been eating like shit. I need a physical trainer, a dietitian, a nutrition. I know that this is important to me. I need these people to help keep me back on the rails, to get me back into
Yeah.
the center of the road, to keep myself from drifting and smashing into a guardrail. And I feel
Hmm.
that therapy can offer that to people. It's not problem focused. Like it's not, I have a problem, I'm going to go and get myself fixed. It's a way of living
Yes.
in concert with your emotions. And you said it
Yeah.
earlier, we all have them. You can't be emotionless. You're a
Yeah.
human being walking the earth. So
Yeah.
um,
And sometimes people come in when like the house is on fire, right? So sometimes
sure,
therapy
right.
is like, I'm a fireman, like putting out the fire. But what works better is when your house has working smoke detectors, right? Like preventative, like let's set it up so that when there is something, it doesn't devastate it.
That's really great. I love that. I love that metaphor of smoke detect. That's great. Okay. What do we want to share with Ashley? Guys, this has flown by. Amazing content. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank
Appreciate you
you.
spending the time with us. If you've got a couple more minutes, we'll see what
Yeah.
questions we've got. Dan, what are you thinking about?
Loved this call. I feel a little targeted by it, but that's okay.
This was really about you, Dan. We
I
all
know it's
decided.
all. I know all of these calls are about me. I know that. I know that. No. Well,
Hi, Dan. I'm your new therapist. No, I'm just
yeah,
joking.
yeah, seriously. Matt knows I need one. So, no, no, the great call. Thanks for joining us, Ashley. One of the things I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about, just because I feel like it's probably one of the most common patterns in my life, but I've also seen it a lot with real estate agents, is the idea around self-sabotage. Why is it that we do things that we know we shouldn't do? Or why is it that we know
Mhm.
what we should be doing and then we choose not to do it anyway? Like
Yeah.
it's like probably the most common thing in my life as well as what I see with real estate agents. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah. I think I'm just going to get up because I want to get a book that I want to show the team. But I think that self-sabotage and like, why do we do that? I think that goes so much back to the being the pilot and having the hijackers, right? Like there are those hijackers that are coming up. And I think, these are patterns that we've had for a long time. And so they're can be comfortable. It's what we know, right? And this book, The Mountain Is You, is a fabulous book that talks about, it's all about self-sabotage. It's, why we kind of do it, when we do it. What I like, because it gives you tools on, if you identify this in your life, try this, right? They have a really good audiobook. They have like a workbook that I have. It's a fabulous, fabulous book. The Mountain Is You. But I think it just goes back to like these parts, right? And there's a self-sabotaging part. And I guess what I would encourage you to do is talk to that part. See if you can figure out with that part of why it's coming up, what it says, what does it need from you?
It's a wild concept, the idea that we've we've actually built all the landmines into our own path.
Mhm.
Like that's the self-sabotage component. And we've done it because we're actually more comfortable dodging the bullets that we
Mhm.
recognize
Yeah,
versus
we
the
know
ones
them.
that we don't. Right. And
Hmm.
so that's why you have the same arguments with your spouse over and over again, or you have the same experiences from one job to the next, or you go from one career to the next career and you realize, wow, I'm actually having the exact same experience. I'm stumbling at the exact same things. That's why salespeople that sell in one industry and say, well, this industry sucks, I'll go to another industry. It's the same story until you decide that your identity is no longer aligned with those challenges that you have. You just have to become a different person, which is sounds so, you can use those, it's like 6 words, but it's actually the truth. You have to become someone who doesn't do those things.
Yeah.
Really challenging. I love it. Dan, great question. Probably we could do a whole podcast on that, which would be amazing.
Hmm.
Bennett, what are you thinking?
Uh, yeah, so thank you. This has been great. Thank you, Ashley, for coming on. So I'm married to a psychiatrist, and I've been through all the kind of iterations myself. And so whenever over the years, whenever mental health comes up, I always like to come, add my 2 cents, which is one is sometimes it's subconscious. So it's not about, like you said, my mom didn't pack me a lunch, but everyone's got certain things that triggered them or hit them at a certain points of their lives that at that moment it was important. It doesn't mean in the grand scheme of things it's important. And so when you go deep, and I don't know, you didn't talk too much about brain spotting, but I did sounds like a similar therapy where it's about uncovering the subconscious things that you don't even realize are affecting. It's less about one moment that in your life that happened and you keep thinking about it. So that's one thing, just to go deeper. And then of course, the other thing is just medication that sometimes no matter what your best efforts are to use those things you said, like tell yourself what's the worst that can happen, all those things, there's certain things that just are uncontrollable. And so if you can kind of like use certain medications in a very controlled and systematic way, you can kind of figure out what parts of your brain are just not allowing you to do what your logical brain is doing. And so I don't know if you're pro or against medication, but I think all those things, everyone's different, and all of those things can be helpful for different people at different times.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like with medication, I'm like 50-50, right? I support people that want to try and heal and grow and manage without it. And I absolutely support people that want to try meds. I think sometimes like major depressive disorder, bipolar, ADHD, it's a brain thing. Like we can't coping skills our way out of it, right? Like those are things that really would benefit from medication. And sometimes just with a little bit of anxiety, right? Sometimes the medication's helpful on like breaking down the wall so that you're then able to like really take in and practice and strengthen these coping skills and use, and then with the medication provider, like titrate off, right? Like a lot of times it doesn't have to be long term. It's just to kind of get us through so that we can really strengthen those tools within ourselves. And one quick thing I want to say about what you said with sometimes these things aren't in our cognitive brain. It's not like when someone pisses us off, it's like, oh, this reminds me of that time when I was 10, right? No, it's not, because that's not where this stuff lives. Right now, we're talking and we're using this part of our brain, right? On the forehead, right? This is the part of the brain where we're thinking and we're talking. That's not where emotions live. That's not where past experiences and trauma live. That lives deep in the subcortex of the brain. And so to be able to rewire, to process those things, we have to go deeper. We can't do it through talk therapy. I love talk therapy. I do talk therapy with my clients. But it's not solving trauma. It's not healing the nervous system. And so that's where, deeper work like EMDR, somatic based brain spotting, ART, that's where that work is beneficial, because it's actually really getting in there and it's rewiring and it's healing. And, sometimes when you're like, oh, why did this piss me off so much? Like cognitively, we don't know, but our brain and the neural pathways, they are wired to fire together. And so when we feel anger towards something, right? It may jump on that neural pathway of when it happened when I was 25, and then this happened when I was 18, and this happened when I was 14. So what happened today that set us off, right, is not just a single incident. It's blowing up because of all of the other experiences that's connected to.
Yeah, because I think it's like again, we want to attribute it to something consciously. So that's why, some people will look at, and a lot of males especially will look at medication as like, well, I don't want to just take a happy pill. And that's kind of what I thought it was like, well, you take a pill and now you're happy. Well, go get drunk and do that. But it's the pill or the therapy or whatever the modality, I guess, is. It's about figuring out how that affects you subconsciously so that you can use your logical brain when you do say, you know what, this is what's the worst that can happen. You don't have this subconscious or this chemical reaction that's preventing that from working. So thank
Yeah.
you.
Love it. It's great.
Hi
Thank you, Deb.
guys, really quickly. Hi Ashley, good to see you
Hi.
again.
Good to see you.
Ashley, I just want to let the team know that Ashley and the growth chapter will be utilizing the Miale team office space this fall, running weekend workshops.
Awesome.
So September 19th still happening, correct, Ashley?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll make
18th.
sure Corey Butler will make sure that the team gets the information about that. So if anybody, that'll be a couples workshop, and it'll be like an all 8 a.m. to like 2 p.m. kind of thing. So you'll be seeing more of her.
I love it. Thank you, Deb. Thank you. Ashley, this has been amazing. Thank you for your time.
Thank
We
you.
went a little bit over, so I hope that's okay.
Yeah.
We love having guests like you come on to share sort of your thinking process and kind of where you started and where you landed. And I think you probably opened a lot of doors, made a big difference here today. How can we support you? Like, what can we do? Is there a social media platform we can follow? Is there a place that we can leave a review? What can we do to help you and your business?
Yeah, I think so. I'm on social media at the Growth Chapter CT. So on Instagram, on Facebook. I do so much in the business. And so I do my own social media, and that's only one of the hats. So I'm not as active as I should be. I need to hire out for that. But you can absolutely follow me. I think the best way to support is just, if you know of someone, right? If it's a personal referral, if it's someone that you're working with and they, are struggling with whatever, I think just keeping us in mind as a potential referral. If I ever can't fit someone in, or if I don't feel like for whatever reason we may be the best fit, I always will, I don't stop at just like, no, sorry, I can't take you. Like I have trusted referrals and colleagues that I will refer to. I don't refer off of just like Google, right? Like these are trusted colleagues of mine. And so I think just keeping us in mind, and, if you ever want me to come back, and even if it's a more targeted kind of conversation of like, this is what we really want to target today. This is what we want to learn. This is what's been coming up for the Miale team. Definitely reach out. I love meeting people and spreading the word and helping in any way that I can.
I love it. Thank you, Ashley. Guys, let's support Ashley. Let's show her some love. give her some support in her business, online, etc. And that's Friday. Away we go. It's the weekend now already, and the weekend halfway through the year, which is totally bananas to think that we're already at this point in the year. Hopefully, you guys have your weekend open houses teed up. Go make it an amazing day. I will see you guys in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. I'll be tan. I'll be 30 pounds lighter for sure. I'm going to lose 30 pounds. Going to get tan. I'm going to be super fit, relaxed. Just, my hair is going to be long. I'm going to come back a whole new person. Love and appreciate you all. Have an amazing day. See you later.